Beach FM, locals talking to locals.
Go, you good thing. It's great to welcome the chair of the Otaki Community Board, Chris Papps. A very good morning to you and congratulations.
Thank you very much, John, and good morning to everybody.
Lovely to talk to you, Christine. I suppose the effect of this means you've got a lot more meetings to go to now.
Absolutely, yes. There'll be a few coming up, although it sort of winds down a little bit prior to Christmas, but that doesn't mean the work stops, so...
Yes, people may not realise that the chairs of community boards attend a lot of the council meetings, and from my observation, Chris, it seems as if you have an influence as well, and you are there to beat the drum for your community, aren't you?
Yes, we do. We don't have any voting rights at the table, but we certainly do have speaking rights where we can advocate for our community on subjects and projects that are going on within the community.
I've seen this happen. You're a great correcting force on occasions because it's easy for people not to realise the intricacies of what happens in the communities, and the great advantage that we have in our particular part of this blessed country is that we have some communities who are all fiercely individualistic and they've got their own characteristics, and that has to be represented at the discussions around the table.
Oh, absolutely. And we see it on the Kapiti Coast. I mean, we've got 4 community boards, and they're all so different right through the community. We've all got different needs, different wants, different ideas, so it's very interesting.
And looking at Otaki, of course, the mayor is a resident of Otaki. You've got, in fact, quite a lot of influence, I would suspect, on the KCDC. And I know there's a lot of hand-wringing goes on every now and again about Otaki with particular issues and challenges. Do you think that you are well represented and that your point of view is something that is listened to?
Yeah, I think we are very well represented. We're very, very lucky. As you say, we have the mayor living in Otaki, we have our ward councillor, and we have 2 district-wide councillors in Otaki. We also have 2 very good local newspapers which put out all the information every month. So I think we are very well represented.
So what do you think the challenges are as community board chair? Where do you think we should go from here?
It's a bit hard to say at the moment. It's the beginning of the new triennium, and it depends what our people want, but mainly to make sure that Otaki isn't forgotten, which we aren't. We do very well from the Kapiti Council. I mean, they did the pool, and we've got the dog park, so we're not left behind by any stretch of the imagination. So just depending on what the local people would like to see happen now.
Is there any north-south discussion that goes on? Because, of course, Otaki is on the margin, and in some respects it's part of the Manawatu. I'm thinking about phone books, etc. And, and the medical thing. I wish the medical thing was sorted out. It just seems to be in between and betwixt.
Yes, we are stuck between a rock and a hard place where the DHBs are concerned. Most people seem to want to go down Wellington Way, but we have to head north. Even with the MOU that's now signed, the ambulance will still take you to Palmerston Hospital unless it's a heart problem or a major head injury or anything like that. So you're still going to be taken to Palmerston.
Do you think consistent boundaries would be an advantage?
Absolutely.
How do we go about that, do you think?
Well, that's something we've got to work on. We've got very advocacy on our health group with Kathy Spires from Paraparu and Marilyn Stevens from our own Otaki Community Board. In fact, I'm going to get Marilyn to do the next radio interview after her next meeting.
Okay. I believe she's Deputy Chair, is that correct?
She most certainly is, yes.
Well, that's wonderful, and congratulations to Marilyn and also to you, because I think this is a very serious discussion. I know that I have problems, and I've been here 30 years now. I have problems working out with Otaki who to go to speak to on various things, and it has not got the kind of consistency that the rest of the area enjoys. There's been an investment in, as you've mentioned, it's been well supported from the Kapiti Coast District Council, the Social Investment Fund. A lot of money went into Otaki. Do you think that money is being well spent and is going to produce dividends?
I think so. They're in the process of actually renovating a whole lot of our council flats at the moment, and I have seen the ones that have been renovated, and they're looking fabulous. So they're gradually working their way through it, and hopefully we'll get them all done within a good space of time.
I believe that one of the issues with the council flats is that dreaded black plastic piping, the Duck's Quest, that seems to be all over the area and seems to be bursting away with very depressing consequences, and that the advantage has been taken of that work having to be done of other work as well.
I think so, but I don't think it's in all of the flats. I think the only one I can think of is possibly the one down by the golf course, where I know somebody had problems with pipes bursting.
Okay, so anyhow, the work is being done there.
Yes.
And in terms of the town centre, is the work finished there?
I think there's always work going on in the town centre. There's always something that needs doing. But it's certainly looking a lot better, and it's a cheery place to be.
It is, actually. Look, it's a wonderful community, Otaki, and it seems to have a wonderful cohesiveness about it. But I think transport could be improved. Would you agree?
Oh, that's my big baby, that one. I would love to get far better public transport up here, and we are working on it. We really are.
Does that mean you're working with the regional council or other agencies involved?
Well, trying to. It's something we've really got to get our teeth into now over the next 3 years, because I think electrification would be absolutely wonderful, but there is a prospect of these hybrid trains, and that's what I think we've really got to push for. I think we're more likely to get that than electrification.
Well, the thing is, there's all of these units up in Auckland, the diesel units they've been using in Auckland, that as their electrification proceeds, they've got spare diesel trains. It doesn't seem to me to take an awful lot of imagination to shoot a few of those down the island, and I would have thought we could do it quite cheaply.
Yes, we can all see that, but the powers that be quite often don't.
Well, this is why we elect people like Chris Papps to do the advocacy for us. So,
yeah, well, hopefully, as I say, it's be really good to have a far better public transport. I've tried to use it to get into Wellington, to go to a meeting that starts at midday, and the only bus I can get to Paraparaumu is 9:30 in the morning, which gets me into far too early, or the next one gets me in far too late.
Well, that's not satisfactory, is it?
No.
And we think about medical appointments, the less urgent ones and the ones you can justify an ambulance for. It is a real issue, and it can take a day. It can take a day to go to the doctor.
Absolutely.
So this is not the best, and it's something that perhaps we'll talk about in the fullness of time.
No, and I feel our people in Otaki, a lot of them don't drive, don't have cars, and public transport is a must, and it's something we really need to improve over the next 3 years.
It's interesting, I was talking to the Mayor of the Hora Whenua about this, and we got on to public transport. They've just done their HITS system, the integrated transport strategy for the Hora Whenua, and we got on to public transport, and I started talking about the viability of it. And he said, look, it's obvious there has to be a public subsidy going into public transport. And that is the nub of it, isn't it? Somehow the broader community has to subsidise public transport, otherwise it's not going to work and we're not going to get the advantages of it.
No, and you've just got to look at the numbers on the buses. I mean, they don't pay when there's 2 or 3 people sitting on them.
So use it or lose it, but
Absolutely.
We need more. The thing about buses, if you go to Singapore, you see, everyone in Singapore, mind you, cars are incredibly cheap. Expensive. It's not so much the cars, it's the licensing of the cars. But what I was going to talk about is the public transport, where everyone seems to use it, but it turns up every 5 minutes, those wonderful trains and buses.
Well, look at Melbourne and Perth.
Precisely. So the more you have, the more it's going to be used.
Yes.
And there must be some...
Unfortunately, we don't have the population. That's our biggie.
That's our biggie. Well, okay, we'll have to crack on with that as well in that case. Chris, lovely to talk to you, and no doubt we'll do more of it as we examine the issues of Otaki here on Beach FM. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
Okay,
Bye.
my dear. Bye. There she is, Chris Papps.
106.3 Beach FM.